Hey everybody, it is time for another So Much Therapy, and we are not in our usual space today because we are going to be talking about some things that we are going to need to show. So we figured we'd move on into the studio, and I don't get to come in here very often. I'm usually in that room with the So Much Therapy, but today we are in this room, and I have Jo Allen with me today. I'm thinking Lisa and Linda, and I'm thinking which one is it, but it's Jo Allen.
Yay!
Usually in this room I'm with Lisa or Linda, but
Exactly.
today it's Jo Allen, and we're going to go over some products, and we're going to talk a little bit about Jo Allen. I wanted to say I saw, if anybody didn't get to watch the episode yesterday, the Creating with Martelli that Lisa did and that Linda moderated, it was awesome. I went home. I did not get a chance to watch it till last night, and they did a great job. I wanted to say thank you to them, and I did see a couple comments about the colors in the back. And yes, I am proud to say that Stephanie is my daughter. She's really good at what she does, the color taste. So we're glad that you guys are enjoying the fact that we get to switch this room around. And I know Zeke does a lot of work with her too, but Lisa and Linda do a great job keeping it clean. Because let me tell you, you guys at home that sew know it's not. It's a.
Do you know how many
job.
people? Every person says, "Oh yeah, if I could just find my cutting mat."
True story. How many of you out there raise your hand?
Yeah,
I know we can't
exactly.
see it, but go ahead and raise it. So
It's like you just kind of shove everything off to the side.
do this, we'll move this here. I mean, I had a customer come in, and we love to see customers, and the storefront is a different location, but on the website, because we do primarily internet sales, our address is here. So
Right.
sometimes it gets a little bit confusing. So sometimes they'll come here, and I brought her up here, and Lisa was in the middle working on project, and everything was everywhere, and I was just like, I'll clean it Monday, Friday. I told them, I said, I'll clean it Friday, forget our Monday. So back to business today. It is all about the tools. And we talk about projects, and we show you how to use the tools, which Lisa did yesterday on that Square Dance, which is a new template. And I
so
think,
excited.
yeah, halfway through, people were going, oh, yeah, I see. And I was thinking to myself, maybe we should have started with the beginning of the OIC, because at first I think it was a little overwhelming, but it's a very simple. And again, you look at that and go, there's no way I can do that. And then you kind of get frustrated. But when you see how easy it truly is, and I don't want to say easy because I can't sew.
But it's
so
because of our tools, though.
But because of the tools not sliding,
Yeah.
it makes it easier. And I even noticed yesterday, we say the right tools, right way, and even you guys are going to
Yep.
use them differently. I was watching Lisa, and Lisa was cutting those squares out and showing you how you could rock the cutter forward, but she chose not to kind of turn that fabric, and she would just move her hands. But the fabric, the template still doesn't move. So really it depends on you. So when we say the right tool the right way, I don't mean the right tool the right way that we want you to do it.
Right.
It's going to be the right tool the right way that's comfortable for you to make sure that your stuff is precise, what's comfortable for you, and how it. Because a lot of times at trade shows, and I'm going to let Jo Allen talk a little bit about herself, and I think we're going to go over, she's been here for a very long time, and go over some of the trade show things. But I do believe sometimes we'll sit there, and when we're at trade shows, time is of the essence, fabric is of the essence. We're going to pre-cut our squares, and then we're going to show a square, and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to cut out that square, and they'll go, oh, well, that's easy, but that's not how I do my squares.
Right.
I mean, you guys are cutting out multiple squares. The rulers sometimes are a better way to go. And so just know that when we're showing a technique, there's multiple ways. I mean, I've seen online, and G and Sherry, you all know them.
Right.
They are, if they don't have a ruler, let me tell you, they've got their ruler here. Give me that one, Joelle. And then they go, okay, well, how wide is this one? And that's 4, and they go this, and you'll see them across, and they're adding to their line and their rulers. And so I think we have so many rulers, but you're going to find not necessarily what we talk about, the few things, but you can go online and see all of our different rulers and why they're different. And I would consider Jo Allen an expert. She is a sales rep that goes to stores as well.
Yep.
So she talks to the store owners. She knows what she's talking about. She knows the products, and she does a great job.
It's not just like a trade show pitch. It's really educating
Absolutely.
and showing everything we do.
And so that's why we want to do this, because this is, when we talk about So Much Therapy, it's our therapy. So we want to talk about how our products work, how we do it, educational portion, Creating with Martelli. All this for me is that educational end of it.
Right.
And some of you today have been with us for a very, very long time. And I'm going to show you something today that you probably haven't seen, but you're going to go, I didn't know that. And you've had our cutters for probably 10 years.
Yeah.
I go to trade shows all the time, and how many times do people come by a trade show and they're like, I've been with you for 10 years and I didn't know that. So you can always learn something new, and that's what we hope we bring to you today, is maybe that one thing that you didn't know that you can see. But I did want to start off with, Joellen, do you remember when you and I met? Do you remember where it was? Go ahead and stitch me out.
Absolutely, 100%.
Where did we meet?
So, same hairdresser. I had my own business, and I happened to be at the salon that day selling the stuff that I did. And so Valerie had done some Christmas shopping, and so I had to come to the store and to here, to W Street, and to deliver it to you. And my husband and I are very much entrepreneurs. We'd had our own business before of things that we had designed and literally had launched and sold all across the world. So I was very intrigued. I'm like, what do you do here? And she's like, come on, let me go show you. By the time I left, I had a cutter, I had a ruler, and I had a DVD, because at that time we had all those DVDs. She goes, why don't you come sell for me? And I'm like, do what? You know? And so I went home and I watched the videos and I played. I was like, okay, well, I'll go do a trade show.
And I think at that time,
almost 11 years ago.
Yeah, she was kind of just, you know, when you're self-employed, you understand the hardships of the time restraints. And so I think she was at that time was a little bit, you know, I've been doing this for a long time. I know I'm not going to make as much money with you, but you know what? I think for me, I need a break, and that turned into 11 years, and it's probably harder than she worked on her own, to be honest with you. But I did walk out with 5 of the things she was selling that day. So I knew she was good at sales, because I'm thinking, why the heck did I buy 5? I'm thinking, did I really need it? No.
Well, let's see, it was Jessica, Stephanie, you know.
Story of my life. And we met at a hairdresser, which tells you I've been gray for about 11 years now, because it was probably 5 years before that I started having to go get the touch-up. So, yeah, gray is a constant thing around here. And I think I was gray at 21, so it was probably 10 years, 15 years before that. But we fell in love with Joellen at that point. And so she's been like Brian and Linda and the rest of them, been around for a while, so she's got a couple good stories. So what I wanted to bring to them is some of the behind the scenes, maybe some customers that were very memorable to you, maybe where you met the customers, maybe one of your most draining shows, maybe your fun show. Just give a little bit of behind the scenes of like how Martelli has been, the ups and the downs, just in general. I mean, I think people can relate, or maybe they'll hear their name. Maybe there's a customer watching that you've probably brought here, because I know there is, because all the time, oh yeah, Joellen sold me the table, or hey, Brian. I mean, you guys out there are here because of, not necessarily David or myself, or even Mom, but because you've met and fallen in love with a sales rep at one of these trade shows, because they truly love what they do.
Yeah.
I mean, they truly, even Brian, he's learned so much, and he even made his first quilt. I mean, he is definitely a salesperson, but he truly believes in the product, where I think Joellen does, and you've probably fallen in love with them well before you even got to us. So,
well, I think that for us, you know, as Martelli, we weren't doing the Facebook Live as much until COVID hit last year. We did it a little bit. You know, you always had Lisa here creating, and Linda would do creating, but not even to the full extent really before last year. And I think a lot of it was because of timing. We didn't have time to do it. We were doing 4 and 5 trade shows a week. It was enough for you to have product made, packages, everything done for us to go on the road and do it.
Linda was probably the one who was doing as close to this, because when you guys would do trade shows, they would have classrooms.
Right. And so Linda was doing classes.
And
absolutely.
So Linda was doing classes.
Yep.
So she was probably the only one who was really doing the bulk of maybe like teaching and doing that.
Well,
but you guys were more of the demo, so this was different.
Well, and the thing is too, like even before that, you know, they would only see you guys like at Houston and maybe the bigger shows. So of course they love you and they're excited because y'all are the ones who started everything. So then with us, traveling all across the country, and you know, I started in Florida and then I moved to Washington, and so then when I was in Washington, I said, oh my gosh, we only do 2 shows a year here, let me go do more, you know. And so it allowed me to even broaden our,
and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were only here a couple of years before then you moved back out to Washington.
6-8 months, that's it.
So God, it was in the plan, because it was really that quickness where you moved. If I hadn't gotten my hair done at that time, we probably would have never.
Right. And you know, the thing is, like for me, and it's crazy to think that I've even been here that long, because it really doesn't feel like that. Now, there are days that, oh yeah, well, I'm only 40. No, I'm just kidding. I'm older than she is. But you know, when you love something, when you believe in the products, how can you change? And just like all of you, you meet us, and maybe it's just because of the rotary cutter at first, because of the differences that it does in your hands and your body, but then you become part of the family. You really do. You become part of the Martelli family. You're excited as soon as something new comes out because you know what it's going to do for you.
Oh, we've got customers. I've got Nancy McNally, Becky McNeilis. We have, I could go on and on with the names, and Miss Hentz, and even locally Miss Frawling. And there's people that come in, and Beth Farr, and she does the most beautiful Christmas ornaments. You guys got some competition on your hand, but that's for another day. But you do become like family.
Yeah.
Beth does beautiful things. She was in the hospital with COVID, and I was praying for her every night. It is quilting is a community, I believe that.
Very much so.
It's very, very much a community. So we just appreciate Ms. D. Kirby was here today.
Yep.
And so tell me about maybe somebody special that you met on the road, or somebody that you remember that maybe even you changed their life, or...
Really, I don't even want to say names because there truly are so many, honestly. Now, and a couple of you, if you're watching today, just like yesterday, someone popped in my head. She's from Alabama, and I just sent her a hello and just said, hey, how are you doing? Was just thinking of you, wanted to say hello. And I have so many people like that I truly care about, that even when I'm at a trade show or I'm at a store event, they will come to see me. So I make sure that I always have new stuff, because I already know that you already own probably everything we have.
But what's new? What you got?
Yeah, and even my store owners too. We develop relationships with you guys, and it's because of Martelli that brought us together. And I do have to tell you a funny story, and you probably don't know this. So
probably a lot of funny stories I don't know about.
So actually, just this weekend, okay? So Brian and I were in Cincinnati, and a customer who has a lot of our stuff. In fact, she came with a list of everything that she already owns. She's been looking at the table for years. She finally decided to buy the table, and she bought the demo, so she got to take it home. So when she came to pick it up, she came with a gold Sharpie. She asked us to sign her table. And I'm like, no, we can't sign your table. She goes, no, I'm serious. I want you guys to sign my table. I was like, okay. So, I go up and I kind of put it underneath because I feel bad. It's like I don't want anything to be. And then, Brian kind of went down the side. But, it was kind of fun, but because she's been watching us forever. And every trade show, like even this past weekend, several people knew that we were coming. So we try to take our pictures with them. And it means a lot for us as well.
That person for years has probably been saving. There's a lot of people who
Yes.
save 2-3 years to
Yes.
get this. And when they come to that show and that door opens, this has been a lifelong process of saving
Right.
money. And to them, it's emotional.
Right.
To me, when my son just got married, everybody knows, about a year ago, and so they were building their house, and they lived with me for a little while, and boy, let me tell you, when he moved out of that house, I had spent money, because I knew he was leaving, on furniture. And when you spend that much money on something, it means a lot to you, and you want to take care of
Right.
it, but that person who waited on you, you remember, whether it's a furniture store or whether it's the people at a car dealership. You don't want the no offense, but you don't want the car salesman. You want the person who's out there trying to make a living but believes in what they're saying. So I think salespeople can really affect people in how they.
And I think that we're very blessed here at Martelli that the people that we have on the road, like me, are very genuine, and they're constantly learning. Maybe they haven't been with us as long, but they believe in the products as well, and they're growing, and we learned so much from you guys as well. I have a little thing that I teach when I go and do store events with the Skinny Minis, and it was because a customer came who bought a table from me here when I happened to be working in the storefront one day. And again, we've just become friends. So she came to see me because I was close to where she was. And she's like, let me show you this new truck. I'm like, come on up, just teach it to everyone. And so now I teach it to everyone. So,
that's where our products come from. They come from
right.
you and, word of mouth and, why they should buy it, or, hey, you need to improve it. So we're always working on it. So I want to jump into, I'm going to start off by the right tool the right way, because if a lot of you out there are going to watch this, and maybe something that you haven't seen or that and it's going to be kind of a close-up thing.
Right.
And any of you have watched my video like from 10 years ago, and everybody knows I love to be on camera. So I've been talking about reshooting that, but to make myself come up here and do it makes me kind of want to throw up every now and then. But
she does fine.
my hair is long. Stephanie's like, Mom, you need that
To
whole
redo the
thing.
video.
You got to redo it. I'm like, but it gives you the information that you need. But I'm going to today kind of go over that because to me, the cutter is where it all starts.
Absolutely. And can I say this really quick? Because to me, and I say this in every single demo that I do, and to me, I demo educate, but it really is every single thing we do at Martelli's is about ergonomics. So when we say the right tool, the right tool, the right way, it is ergonomics. And and I talk about this from the beginning because ergonomics is about eliminating all that stress in your body. And whether it's in your hands, your neck, your back, your shoulders, and everything we do, whether it is a $27 piece of equipment or a $3,000 piece of equipment, it is the right tool. And it makes a huge difference in your body.
Now, I'm going to do a giveaway today, and I need some interactions in order to give this giveaway. I'm going to ask some questions, and then I'm going to ask JoAllen what she thinks the term of ergonomics is, because not to put her on the spot, I'm pretty familiar with what ergonomics is, and I'm sure she is, but I want, like in our industry, what ergonomics is. But before we go there, I want everybody to type me in. If you had to tell me the most important thing in quilting, what would it be? Just one word. I'm just looking for one word. If everybody can go ahead and start posting, what would that be? Because I want to see if my theory is right. I've been doing it for a long time. I don't think you guys are going to agree with what mine is, but we'll see if I'm wrong. So again, go ahead and type in there. What do you think in one word is the most important thing about quilting? Okay, so now hopefully you're not going to give it away in your explanation, but what is ergonomics in quilting and sewing? When we talk about ergonomics, what do you see that being?
To me, or even, and I'll be honest, like because I have one envision, and then I kind of went and looked and just typed in ergonomics, and when you type it in, it talks about the workplace. But to me, our workplace is here with sewing and quilting. Whether you're a salesperson or, quite honestly, even at home when people are making their quilts, because it is still work. It's a beautiful piece of art that you work. And so it actually has to do with not only in your body, in every single aspect, your hands, your back, your neck, your shoulder, but it's also your mental health as well.
No, that's probably quilting. What do they say? If you can't get it done and you're frustrated, walk away.
Yeah.
That's my husband. I brought him on so much therapy last week, but that's him. If you get to that point of frustration, shut it down, walk away, and come back. Because once your mind is readjusted, you see things clearly.
Yeah.
See
Right.
extremely clearly.
Right.
Now, to me, ergonomics is when you hit, and again, I'm 50, but when you hit a certain age, ergonomics to me is not the same as when you're a kid. Right? Because when you're a kid, you're invincible in ergonomics, and I'm going to get a desk at work and my computer, and I'm going to stand up, and when you hit a certain age, it's not just about ergonomics, it's about you can only cut 2 hours a day as compared to 10 hours a day by using the right tool the right way.
Yep.
So where a 22-year-old could come in and cut all day long, no big deal, right? When you see 50-year-olds, 55-year-olds, 60-year-olds, in a quilt show, how many hand braces do we see?
Tons.
Why? Corporal tunnel.
Yep.
Why? Because you've been quilting for years and years and years, and you haven't done it the right way.
Arthritis.
And I mean, I could go over letters, and I should have brought some up, but people have said, hey, thank you for saving my mom. She's 90. She couldn't cut anymore, and, she was able to cut when I taught her this method, blah, 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 blah. So there's a lot of things that you can do. So when we talk about ergonomics, we're talking about ergonomics for people over the age of 60, and our products are designed for them. Because a 22-year-old may not need that little bit of a help, because we all know we've done it, right? So you get the ruler out, and you don't want it to slide. Stephanie said my shirt, so I got to be careful. so you put your arm down, or the whole thing, or but when you're older, you need things to be way more ergonomic because
it's also this, okay, and with people that are in their 20s, though, again, the most important thing with quilting is accuracy. Where our things
Now you just went and gave them the answer.
Oh, sugar. Well, see, then you didn't have to say that. But, you know, so I don't care how old you are, when you sit there and hold on to acrylic that moves around, it's giving you that pain all the way up your body. So it doesn't really matter how old you are, because if you're, just like you said, if you're like this, you're still going to get those aches and pains a little bit more
I'm
if
going
you're
to
older.
tell you,
but-
I have seen ladies at that quilt shows where they come in, their hand is,
Oh, yeah.
and again, I'm getting
And
there,
they're
but
like- they're
twisted.
crooked, yeah.
Because they've been doing this their whole life
Yep.
with holding templates, or especially with long arming. I can't even tell you.
Oof.
If I see one that's really bad, I'll say, do you long arm?
Yeah.
You know, because we can save. All right, Linda, so what were some of the answers that we got?
We got lots of great answers. Of course, we got accuracy, accurate cutting, a lot of comfort, straightness, consistency, rotary cutter table, comfort. I really liked, let's see, body and comfort, no stress. That was
Yeah.
Fran. I also like Carolyn. She said a tool to keep your body in the proper alignment while using it.
Again, those are all great answers, but the number one answer, I've been doing this a long time, is accuracy.
Accuracy, absolutely.
Because it doesn't matter how your mind is, that doesn't make you cut accurate. It doesn't matter if you're not cutting in the right position. Accuracy. If you can't cut one square square, when you're sewing all those pieces together, that one square that's not accurate puts it off just a smidge.
Yep.
But now take that and you've got
Times-
60 squares in that quilt.
Yep.
And you've made an 8-inch block with 10 pieces in it, or 8 pieces. When you go, my sister-in-law long arms, and you all know that, and I'm going to get her to come on here. But she will say, these people give me these quilts sometimes, and they beautiful work. And then you go to put it on a long arm,
Yeah.
and then they want a decorative stitch. Well, it's you don't see your mistakes in accuracy, really, truly, until it goes on a long arm, or it goes on somewhere where you have to be that accurate. But when you're using the right tool the right way, even if you mess up a little bit, you can always go back and correct.
Well, and
Correct
that's why I do love our tools, because, and truly, I always tell people that I can take a beginner quilter, and when she cuts using the Martelli tools, it will be like she's been cutting forever. Because once you have it in place and they don't move, you know, it doesn't matter if you go and you accidentally hit it. I may have veered off, but then I can go back and fix it without having to realign.
So that's what I'm going to teach you today. Everybody knows, and go ahead and let me know on there too, and Lenny, you can kind of keep up and break in and let me know. How many of you know what a dog ear is? Because that, what she just talked about is you're veering off, right? But what we call that in the sewing industry is dog ears, right? I have a better shot if you are a new beginner and you come to me.
Correct.
I have a better shot teaching you than if you've been doing it for years.
Right.
If you've been quilting for 20 years, people come up and go, oh, I've been quilting for 20 years and I just don't like that cutter. I mean, how many times have you had, honestly, if we're going to
All
say.
the time.
All the time.
All the time.
They'll come to me and they'll walk by my table. I bought that thing. I don't like it.
Yep.
And I'll say, well, could you tell me why you don't like it? I just don't like it. It just doesn't work for me. Just don't like it. Well, can you give me just a minute of your time? And how many times have you said, can you give me a
Always.
minute of your time? So could you just show me how it is that you cut your fabric? You know, and I'll put a piece of fabric out there and they're like, yeah, like this. There's nothing ergonomic about this and it will not work for you.
Nope.
Or you get, yeah, I've done it before, and they go like this, right? I can tell you immediately, you're not using the cutter properly, right? How many of you out there have had to go online and buy new bolts for the cutter? Mm-hmm. It's because you're not using the cutter correctly. When I turn my hand around, you can see, and Zeke, if I can put it here. You see how this and this are so far apart? But when you put it here, it looks like you're holding the cutter properly, right? If you were to look at that, now me, I know, because I do this for a living. But when you look at the box, you think, oh, that's how you're supposed to hold it, right? Because you're used to pushing with your finger. And especially
And
if
they do
somebody
that all
walks
the
up
time.
and they bring their finger up, I'm like, stop.
Yep.
It's not going to work. And I'm going to show you why, and I'm going to let Zeke keep this in a close-up for a minute. So, and the best way to explain it, my mom has a good way, I have a way, but it's all telling the same story. If this was a car, okay, and I had to push this car out of the road, and you know, we're all older, of course, we're going to call our husbands or AAA or whatever, but I'm telling you, there's going to be that time where you're not going to have anybody there. So, this is a car, I'm going to put it neutral, and I'm going to push it. If I put my fingers on the back of that car, do you see my fingers and how white and red they are? you would break your fingers. You wouldn't move that car would roll back and you'd snap your finger, right? So let's say I go ahead and use my thumb. Again, a little bit more power, a little bit more sturdy, but it's not going to work, right? So we've been trained our whole lives that we're going to use the rotary cutter, and we cut with our thumb or we cut with our finger, and we cut, right? You have no strength here. Now this is all coming from my dad, and when he invented the cutter with my grandmother had an idea, my dad came up with it, and he just said, well, he went and put a big thing of clay down, and he just put his hand on it the way he thought it should go. Direct pressure over a blade. The farther you are away from a blade, if I cut my pencil here and I'm pushing with my thumb, I have a lot of pressure, right? Now, if I go up to the top of this, I don't have nearly the lever, right? Direct pressure is always going to be best, correct? Okay, so when we talk about the rotary cutter, now I don't have a ruler right now, but so when we cut with the rotary cutter. I want to see how I can do this. Okay, so if we have a rotary cutter, and we're going to talk about the ruler, see how this slides, it's plastic, right? But so now we've got the nose slip, and a lot of you are already familiar with it, right? It moves, right? Because my hand are locked on this fabric, as you can see. It's locked to the fabric. Now, if I don't want this to go anywhere, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my finger, put it to the yellow part, so I'm going to lock this to the yellow, and now I'm going to lock it to the fabric. Now it's not going anywhere. But if I just put my finger in downward pressure on the fabric, it moves, okay? So that's something that you guys need to be aware of. If you want that ruler not to move, make sure you're locking the brown to the table, no slip, locking it to your fabric, no slip, and then you're ready to go. Now I see a lot of you doing this, okay? So we are here, dead center in front of our body, and we're going to cut down and through. And you see how it skipped. And I'm going to show you in just a minute why it skipped, okay? So now we're going to go back to, I'm just going to come back here. And you got your dolly cutter. So here, I've got 4 layers, okay? So here, with my hand like this, and as you can see as I turn it on, if this is my car, I push with the palm of my hand. If I was going to push that car out of the road, my palm goes right here on that car, and I push. This is where your pressure comes from. I should not even have to use my finger or my thumb when I cut. I should be able to cut like butter without my finger and thumb. What that finger and thumb does is gives you control and direct pressure. Mm-hmm. So from here, if I have my finger and thumb down, it's that direct pressure that I get. So you can see how that works, right? But I'm also going to show you this. So we're going to cut down and through. I'm going to cut down and through. I cut down and through.
And that's probably 8.
No, there's a lot. Now, you guys are never going to do this. Why do they not do this? Because if you mess up your fabric, you've
It's
messed
a
up a
lot.
whole lot of it, right?
Exactly.
So in here, I'm going to come here. Now, I'm going to stand right here. Now, you see how my arm is to my hip, and you always hear David's always teaching and always talking from the hip, right? From the hip. So when you do this 15 times, it doesn't really hurt. You put your hands together really quick and do that 15 times, you start to feel that in your shoulders and your back, right? So I'm going to cut the proper way the first time. I have no rulers whatsoever. My hand is down. I'm going to cut down and through. Now, that's not perfectly straight, but do you see how straight that pretty much is? With no ruler, that's pretty good, right? So now, what I'm going to show you is, this is the correct way to cut. Now, if I move my body where you guys cut, and I do this, do you see what just happened to my cutter? It tilted a little bit, right? So when I cut from the side, my blade is perfectly straight. The second I cut in the center of my body, that blade goes. And it's so minute. I mean, he's got it blown up. And oh, my fingernail, Zeke, I tell you what, I can't do this anymore. So it's right in the center of my body. So now, Zeke, if you can blow that up again on that fabric, I want you to watch. Can we move it down just a little bit? See the top? Okay. Now, when I cut like that, I want you to see what that fabric does. Let me pull it back down. Sorry. Do you see that fabric turn? That's how you get those dog ears. And I cut a lot of layers so that you could see exactly what it's doing. But if I cut perfectly straight up and down with the tip of that blade, and I cut just one straight, it's not perfect because, of course, I don't have a ruler. But do you see how straight that is compared to that? Simply by turning that blade incorrectly, by just stepping in front of that blade, just that little bit, and cutting, it's going to, not only is it going to ruin your blade, but your fabric is going to get dog ears. So when we talk about cutting our fabric, and we talk about, and I'm going to let Joellen go over the rulers, but when we're talking about going, and she was talking about veering off, when I'm cutting here, I should never be here. I should never be here. And a lot of times you guys are like, I want to hit a pin. I don't want to hit a pin, so I got to see. So you tilt your blade on purpose. Okay, your blade comes to a point like this. And I'm going to ruin the blade, but I want to show you something. So when you come in here and you watch me, right? Do you see how hard I'm pushing? My hand is shaking. I'm pushing so hard.
And I can't tell you how many people do that when they first go to cut, when I have them at events.
Now I want you to watch this close up again. So now this is perfectly straight. Maybe do it on, yeah, maybe here's the, because
Oh,
they
the
can see it.
yellow.
So this is perfectly straight. Now I'm going to tilt it just a little bit. Now I'm going to put a lot of pressure on it. Do you see that blade flexing? I could snap it. It's like an egg. From top to bottom, you can't break that egg, right? But if you put that egg on its side, you're going to snap it. The integrity of this top to bottom, if you keep that blade straight, is going to stay straight. Your blade's going to last longer. The second you flex that, you could snap that blade in 2 seconds. Very important that that blade is very ergonomic. It's up and down. So when you guys are trading out your blades and you're having to buy new screws, it's because when you're cutting, you're trying to take your finger to cut like this, right? Go back and just cut something. If you see your finger raise, absolutely not using that cutter right. If you go to cut and just put it in your hand, if you turn your hand around and this is not in the palm of your hand, you are not using that cutter correctly. And it will take you a while to get into this habit. I'm telling you, once you've learned the wrong way, it's going to take you 5 or 10 minutes to learn the right way. Solidly in your hand, down. Now, my mom always says, this is where my thing is the car, but my mom is a rolling pin.
Right.
How many of out there have rolled? You can't, people will do this and they're like, well, I can't, it doesn't work. And I can't get it to cut. And it just, well, because you're not putting any downward pressure. You don't need a lot. But as you're rolling forward, you're pushing direct pressure down, just like a rolling pin. So you're flattening the dough like that. It should be that easy. I can cut through, okay, this is 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. I barely touched that mat. It was not hard for me to do, okay? But when you guys are cutting with a straight blade with your thumb, you're having to crank it down. So then what happens when your blade is perfectly up and down? So your blade is right on top of that mat. Now, how many of you say, oh, I have a mark on my 36 because I cut 36 all the time and it's worn a groove, right? This is a self-healing mat. That means if your blade goes straight down and comes up, the rubber comes back together, correct? If your blade is at an angle and you cut into the rubber at an angle, and the next time you come over and move just slightly a little over, and you go down in the same spot, you just took a wedge out. It's not going to grow new rubber. The idea is you don't want this blade to go into your mat. You want to roll on top of that mat. You don't want to have enough pressure on this cutter where it's digging into your mat. You should always be cutting on the very top of that mat with very little pressure. I mean, literally, it takes me nothing to cut this. And you guys generally, now I know there's some of you out there that are just diehards that cut 20 layers at a time, but for the most part, you're doing 4. There's no pressure. I've put 0 pressure on this. Your mat should last forever, and you should not have to replace your bolt. If you are cutting wrong, expect to replace your bolt, and there's nothing I'm going to be able to do about it, because when you're using this rotary cutter, your blade rides on this screw. It's circular. So you're putting all that force and weight onto that metal blade is digging into your screw, and you are pushing very hard in order for that to happen. So your blades will last longer.
Yep.
Because how many times have you ever said, oh, I got to skip. This is a brand new blade and I've got to skip. Because when you bend your blade, when you have it here and you're pushing really hard, you're flexing that blade like this. And what happens is you get like a little kink in each side of your blade. So if you think you've hit a pin, then you go ahead and roll that. You're going to get a skip, a skip, a skip, and they're going to be exact in the exact same places. And if you hit a pin, are you going to hit a pin twice in the exact same place, top and bottom?
No.
You're not. It's because you bent your blade, whether it's my blade or anybody else's blade. Once
Yep.
you've bent that blade, it's done. If you will keep your blade straight up and down, and I know we say right tool the right way, and I saw Lisa cutting yesterday, and she got her template, and she was going, and she would have it on the top, and she would cut this way. And then she would come over here and she was cutting this way.
Lisa.
And then she was cutting this way because she didn't turn her template, which is okay. But you never saw her blade waver. Her blade was always up and down. It was always straight. That's because Lisa does it for a living. That's because I do it for a living. That's because Joe Allen does it. We know that we have to keep that blade straight no matter what. But if you're a beginner, get used to having that blade here by your side, cutting from here. Because again, we talked accuracy is the most important thing. Without accuracy, nothing else exists. So whether I do this sideways, my blade is straight. Whether I come in here, my blade is straight. It's going to take you a minute. Use your rulers, and I'm going to let Joe Allen go over the ruler section of it. Use your rulers to keep everything straight and keep it in line. And do I have any questions at all on this that I can go over?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
They want to know, Linda wants to know the opening and closing. She says, I hear it click, but I don't see how it's done.
Okay. Again, if you have our cutter, and I know G and Sherry, we're Team G, Team Sherry. Anybody who's done our retreats, I don't even need to explain that to you. But when you put a cutter down, your cutter should always be closed. And I know a lot of people get in the habit and they throw it down like this. Please do not do that. It's not made to do that. You ought not do that.
Yeah.
You just don't.
It becomes habit though. Once you learn, it becomes habit. You'll close
So
it.
once you put this in your hand like this and your finger is here, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn sideways so that you can see what I'm doing. From here, you roll it to open it. You saw what I did. I rolled it to open it. Now on the flip side, you bring this finger up and hit it. Now you guys see me doing that because to me it's habit. I don't think about it. It's done. You roll it to open it. So no matter what I'm doing, I could be cutting and then putting it down every 5 seconds. If you do this 15 times, it becomes, I don't want to say habit at 15 times, but it becomes easy because I'll try to teach this to people at trade shows and they're like, it's not that complicated. It really isn't. If your hand is in the right position and you've got a grip on that, all you do is bring your finger up, out, and down. Down. And it's very easy to do. You just need to get the hang of it. And you just got to sit there and do this.
Yep.
Just sit there and do this. And then once you do it, you'll never stop. So every time you put that cutter down, which is annoying because you saw me, I'm like, this cutter's not working. I didn't open it. As I was sitting there, I'm like, something doesn't feel. You just automatically, when you're talking in your hand, you just close it because that's what is natural to you. So I hope that answered it. Down, close it. And that's the correct way to do it. Okay, is there any other ones?
Any other questions?
I'm answering a question right now. Let's see. I think we've got everything answered. So lots of people are saying they're learning a lot.
And like I said, I can't tell you how many of you come by. I do this, and because I'm the owner's daughter, I have a special interest in it. And then people will come by and say, oh, I love your products. I love this. I love everything. And sometimes just out of curiosity, I'll say, like, do you use our cutter a lot? That's the only cutter I will ever use.
Yep.
And I'd say, well, do you mind showing me how you use it? And when I tell you, I'm not kidding you, 90% of them hold it like this and their finger is up.
Always.
It will work for you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that won't. I mean, I can do this and it will work for me.
You're just going to be cramped.
Especially
though.
at two layers. But your finger is not in an ergonomic position. It's not the right position, so you're going to have to push harder the more layers you do. If you automatically know how to use this cutter with your finger up, your thumb off, this teaches you. Because it's hard when this finger and the thumb is down, it's hard to get the hang of it. But if you just take your finger and your thumb off, it forces you to come from here. This is only for comfort. Hence the ergonomics and why it doesn't hurt. Because when you swing a bat, your power comes from here. Your power doesn't come from here. When you're swinging that bat, it doesn't come from. And another big thing, and I know this is all about the cutter, and I want to let Joanne do the rules because they are as big as the cutter is. But if anybody's out there who's ever shot a gun, and everybody knows I'm a police officer. So I'm not going to tell you what my name was in the academy, but let's just say I wasn't a perfect shot. And they were always yelling at me because I was the last man standing, and my gun would always jam. And I just didn't understand why my gun was always, I had a piece of crap gun. No, it wasn't the gun. It was me. And it's what you call limp wrist, right? So when you just kind of limp wristing it and you shoot, your gun knows that there's not enough pull force, right? This is the same way. This is another big thing I see you guys doing. And somebody will come up and I'll say, hey, let me see how you cut. This is what they do, right? So they come over here and yeah, they start here and then as they cut, they bring their hand up.
Mm-hmm.
You need to lock your wrist wherever it's coming. And if you have one of our tables, oh, that's for another day, but you can put it at that perfect height. But let's say you're at a table and you're much lower, right? And you start here. Well, your hand's already like this. You're already tilted because you're tall, right? And then you have to cut this, which necessarily isn't bad. But now when you start to get in layers and now you're here, do you see there it's not your fabric's not fitting underneath it. The prime way to have this cutter is it to be even. For this right here, this guard right here is to be even and straight, just like that. That's how you want it. So that should always be straight. And then you need to lock your wrist. Whenever you decide you're going to cut, and I don't mean it has to hurt, and again, this is another one of those things that once you do it 4 or 5 times, you learn it. Lock your wrist, comfort, control, down and through like a rolling pin. And you will be amazed. Even people that have had our cutter for 5 and 6 years, I do this all the time. And a lot of times I just do it to see if people are finally getting the hang of it. I've been doing it for 20 years. No, even those that use this cutter that say you love it are not using that rotary cutter properly. I can assure you of that. So, and cutting is where it starts with, and that's where we talk about accuracy. Mm-hmm. So if you know how to use the cutter, you don't have to cut your square twice or your ruler twice. You don't get those veer off and have to go back that Joanne was talking about. It's right the first time. And the rulers, there's a whole line of rulers, and I'm going to let her kind of go, just jump in like I did with the cutters, to jump into these rulers and teach you how to use them and why.
Well, and the thing is, quite honestly, we do have so many rulers. You know, I guess, you know, of course, the most important thing is that none of the rulers, none of the templates move because of, you know, the special, what I always call the Martelli magic on everything, but also because they're cut on a laser. So we already know that they're 100% accurate. And, you know, with acrylic rulers, just like we were saying, when everything moves around, you're sitting on top of it, you know, because usually we are cutting too high, so you're bending over and you're holding on for dear life, and of course it's going to move. But because of the non-slip fabric that we put on the back, of course it always hugs it. But being accurate, you want to make sure that these rulers are always going to be accurate. With acrylic, it starts giving. You're going to lose that accuracy. This particular ruler, and I know you've seen all of us, Lisa, Linda, myself, you know, cut with these all the time. So these are at 1/2 inch increments, okay? This particular ruler, which we call the binding strip ruler, you know, you've got 1 5/8, 2 1/2, 3 1/4, 1 1/4, 2 1/4. I'm sure that a lot of you already own this ruler. If you, well, or any of these rulers. What I love about all of our rulers, besides the non-slip, is that, you know, maybe there's something that you use more often. If we don't have it already for you, we can make it for you. But I mean, we have so many rulers, and it's because, oh, Valerie's going to grab a whole bunch. And it's because you all ask for them. Can you make this for me? Can you make that for me? But I do want to show you something here. Because one thing, and if you're new to Martelli, a lot of times people say, I can't see through that ruler. There is no way I can use it. But that's because we're always used to acrylic moving and having to realign. Trust the measurements on these rulers because they are accurate. Once it's in place, it's going to hold your fabric. Whether we go like this and it doesn't move, or I go like this and it hugs it, I'm still going to be straight no matter what I do. But I want to show you one cut, and really they're all going to be the same cut, and we'll just kind of give you an idea of the different type. Before I ever start, I actually, with a couple of these rulers, that cutting distance is only like 17 inches. And of course, when you pull it off your bolt, it's 24 inches. So you are going to fold that fabric one more time, so you have 4 layers. Now, a lot of times people say they don't like to fold their fabric because they're afraid of the little wonky wonks that you're going to get in your fabric.
Dog ears.
Okay, you know, because if you fold it, it may not be straight, but the weight of the fabric and the non-slip is going to hold that in place. So we're going to go ahead and cut that off so that we know we're straight. Oh, see?
Yeah, I've been corrected. They're called elbows. I've always
elbows?
called them. Yeah, I
always just call them wonky wonks. So let's just do, I'm just going to do, you know, a couple of 1 1/2 inch. Now I will tell you, with this ruler, and this is how I teach it before I ever start with this ruler, I take a piece of chalk or a quilt marking pencil and I mark where I'm going to cut. And then that way, tomorrow when I'm getting ready to do something else, I can wipe it off. I know some people color it in or they use tape or whatever. But let's just show you that first of all, you've got a perfect 1.5 inch strip, okay? But even though I folded it over and over again, it's still perfectly straight. So you don't have to worry about that. And that's the nice thing about it. A, you're going to be accurate every single solitary time. B, you're not going to have any stress in your left body, or if you're right-handed or left-handed, you know, on your right side, because you're having to hold it on. But it makes a world of difference no matter what ruler you use of Martelli, because of the Martelli magic that goes underneath it. So Val grabbed a couple of different
Linda,
rulers.
if I can ask a question, if you guys can answer this for me, because I kind of want to see just in our audience, how many of you refuse to fold your fabric?
A lot.
I want to see
Give
in
us-
our customers. I want to
Give
say,
us some thumbs up if you don't like folding your fabric.
yeah.
You know,
Or just put a comment, just comment on it, no. Because I really would like to go back when I watch this, because I want to see how many people. Because when we design our rulers, and when you watched Jo Allen cut with this, and you know she folded it. When she comes in here, we've been doing this such a long time. I think sometimes we forget the troubles that you have because we already know how to do it.
right.
So when you're cutting with this cutter and you come in here and you cut, and people say, oh, well, you just do it so easy and I get home and I can't. It is true to a certain extent, but if you will give just a little practice, you'll be like we are. So when you come in here, again, to the side of your body, you want to be straight, you cut down and through, right? And then I'm going to cut 1, 2, 3. That's going to be 1.5 inches. If you lightly tilt your blade,
Just to get in.
and I don't even know, can you hear that? You'll hear it immediately when it hits. You're going to push down in. And now when you go down and through, when you get to the other side, if you just pull up, do you see how my ruler just pulled up? Well, now it kind of makes your fabric wonky underneath. Because what you did is you just put an air pocket under there and your fabric kind of waved a little bit, right? So when you come in here, and we're going to do the next one, when I do this, if I cut in here, I cut down and through. When I get to the end, do you see me tilt it and pull my blade out? You didn't see my ruler pick up, not one time.
Mm-hmm.
So when you come in here and you do another cut, you cut down and through, and it becomes habit when you get to the end. I don't ever do this where I have to sit there and try to pull it up like that.
Right.
Because I know, Jo Allen knows, you want to just do that little bit of a pivot. And so when you're going through, again, I'm going to do it one more time so you guys can see what I'm doing.
And every single time, though, you're going to be accurate in what you decide
Straight
to cut.
down. Slide it just ever so slightly till you hear it. Then you know it's in. Turn it, drop it. Down. When you get to the end of your fabric, you pull up and out. Then you know if you're going to do multiple cuts, your fabric's not going to get wonky when you pull that up, and that fabric starts, because of the breeze, starts to go away. So when we talk about accuracy, whatever we can do to make these accurate, we are going to do and make those as accurate as we can. Now, a lot of people love this ruler. Some people don't.
I saw
Some
a ton
people
of these
like
rulers.
different rulers for
Yep.
different reasons. So I want to talk a little bit about the pros and the cons of the rulers.
Of our rulers?
Of the rulers, right.
Okay.
So this one, you already said one of the negatives. You have to fold your fabric. And a
Yep.
lot of people don't. So it's already, when they look at this and they see that they have to fold their fabric and the binding, they're just, even though ours doesn't give you the elbows or
Right.
however, whatever you want to say, when it doesn't give you those, then you still don't want to do it because you just don't want to do it.
They're
It's like,
afraid.
Yeah,
They're
it's
afraid.
like wearing a low-cut shirt that keeps falling down, and it's like, don't wear that shirt anymore. You learn your lesson, like, hey, you shouldn't do it. I don't want to do it. You just stay away from it. So you look at these rulers here, and what is the prime difference between this ruler?
Don't have to fold it.
You don't have to fold it. And we've got a whole line. What you need to do when you're looking on our website is you need to look. It will tell you the cut line. Your fabric is 22 inches long. If your ruler is 22 inches, well, your cut line can't be 22 inches because you have to have a solid at the top and a solid at the bottom. So look for that cut line. That's what you need to look for when you're looking at these rulers. I am sorry, but there is a 5 by 1/2 inch strip ruler. I can't live without when I'm doing it. And I cut a lot of fabrics. You all know I don't quilt, but I did a lot of face masks. I
Right.
do a lot of cutting kits. I can't live because I want it to go
You
from
don't want
top
to
to
fold it,
bottom.
right.
I mean, I just want to get that clean cut, and I just want to keep going. And I like
Grab
the
the
1/2
jelly
inch
roll.
because to me, it's just, I like that 1/2 inch.
It gives you more of a
Now,
variance.
these are the seam allowance rulers, which we don't sell a lot of,
No.
which really disturbs me because these are so amazing. Again, you have, well, we do one for a bag maker, and Sandy Peterson, she's probably not watching, but she's a customer of mine who does bags. And she does clothes. So 7/8, I think it's 7/8, and
We've got three different.
3/8, and
Yep, and a quarter.
and a quarter. But there's 2, 4, 6 sizes. So these are all 1-inch increments in the middle, right here, all 1 inch. So if you have a 1.5, your 1/2 inch is over here, and your 3/4 is over here, or however they go. I'm not really sure because I don't have all of them here and how they go. But I can do 1.5, 2.5, 3.5. Or I can turn that around and do 1 3/4, 2 3/4, or 3 3/4.
Yep.
Don't fold my fabric. My seam allowances are always built in.
Yep.
When you're dealing with the 1/2 inch ruler that we have, your seam allowance isn't built in unless you're going in halves.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying? Where
Right.
these are the 1/4 inch, you've got your seam allowances built in for things.
And the nice thing is you're not having to fold, because like, this one we've got 1 1/4,
Yeah.
2 1/4, but you're still going to fold. These
Or
are great.
Or lining up a quilt. As you can see, there's hash marks on the end of each one of these. So if you want to get on that seam, if your binding is 2 1/4 is your binding, if you will go on your seam line and put this hash mark right there on your seam line, and then you go to the other end and match this end up to the seam line, and then you can trim it up. And honestly, and what I've taught a lot of people, and again, I don't quilt or sew, is if you have, let's say, a 2.5 inch binding strip that you're putting all the way around your quilt, just go ahead and make it 3 inches. It might take a little bit more fabric, you might waste a little bit, but then when you're trimming up that quilt, if you haven't been exact in your whole quilt, then you can just lay these on your seam line, go out to your 2.5, cut, you might cut a little bit off, but you never have where you're short a little bit when you're
Right.
putting that binding on. Your binding is going to be squared up every single time. So these are great for binding up the rulers too.
Right.
But again, what Joellen said is they all pretty much work the same. When we're talking about the right tools the right way, make sure this is to the side of your body. Make sure you're cutting from the side. You don't want the ruler dead center, because when the ruler's dead center, you're automatically at an angle. You want to make sure when you're cutting.
And you're not going to be able to get through those layers.
No, and you always want to be to the side.
Yep.
Always want to be to the side and roll it and open it. Now, we talked about the basic ruler, so again, you just really need to look at.
They're all going to be the same. They're all going to work the same no matter what you do. It's just look and see what makes more sense for you. What do you see yourself using more? Quite honestly, I use this one a lot more often. I love that one, and I sell a ton of that one because of it. See, now I never use those.
See, now let me tell you why you will use these a lot. When you're sewing, we have these hoops, right? And we talk about the tools, and we talk about it holds the again. So when you're free motioning, and I know a lot of you out there, most of you are not new. If you're new, could you please give me a shout out and say, hey, I'm new to Martelli? Because I'm kind of talking like I'm talking to our friends and people, but there may be somebody out there that is new that maybe really doesn't understand what we're talking about, and I
Right.
don't want to overlook that as well.
Right.
But for you that are sewing, you don't think about it much. But when you're sewing and you're stitching in the ditch, now we have long arms, you have to make sure there's a lot of things. You need to make sure you're using a template foot, because you don't want your hopping foot to hit it, because that will not be good for your templates. But if you have a sewing foot on there and you've got that template to go off of, you can line this up with your ditch. And if your ditch isn't perfectly straight, this will just guide your fabric through. We have a 1x6, and G and Sherry use that more than they use anything, because when they're down by their needle, they're using it with their sewing machine. These aren't just
Right.
cutting rulers. These are rulers for your sewing machine. If you're going to do cross hatching, you want to do the long skinny minis. And when you're quilting your quilt, they give you the perfect. Now this is a little wide for cross hatching, but now it doesn't move. So if you're going to do cross hatching, you want to sew it this way, right? And then when you want to move and sew it again, then you're going to sew on this side. So in other words, what you would do is you would actually sew here. Or no, sorry, I'm backwards. You would sew here, and then you would turn around, and then you would sew on this side. Now how would I do? I'm not on the machine, and I don't sew. But I've seen people do like the cross hatching. Now, of course, you would want the cross hatching probably smaller than this, unless it was a really big quilt. And I bet you if you ask Lisa, when she's at home, she doesn't just use the palm paddles, or G and Sherry are really big with the 1x6. They use a lot to get down in those little pieces for measurements.
Right.
So we have rulers from. Matter of fact, here you go.
Oh,
There you go. And these are handy dandy when Lisa and Linda are sewing in the room, so they're smaller. But, and I know you're over there, Linda. What do you guys, or Lisa, I know you're not mic'd up, but what is your biggest use for the one? And I know G swears by them, but what would you use these for mostly?
The 1x6?
Yeah, or the 2x6.
Everything. Placement, positioning, folding, tucks, pleats, box bottoms. The list goes on and on.
And I was just happening to be talking about
Little-
these, and this is in their
little
table
tabs.
right next to their,
Yeah.
their cutting table.
Purses, zipper bags, little tabs, the zipper tabs.
Just 'cause they're smaller and
So,
holding the
yeah,
fabric?
Yeah,
Sometimes,
marking, I mean, they're, I use them all the time since we started having them. Just like G and Sherry, they are always being used.
Yeah, so Lisa says she always has it by her machine, and it's funny that I was talking about them. I just happened
Yeah.
to look over, and this is her sewing area, so she obviously uses them because they're worn pretty good. So now we've talked about the rulers, and I know we've talked a little bit about this, and I'm not even sure how much time we have left, but I
Just a couple
really
minutes.
want to take a minute to give Joe Allen the time to talk about, our baby. This has been, we talk about ergonomics. This is something you can live without, but if you can afford it, you absolutely can't live without it. And you guys know that the salespeople are at the shows, and we sell them, and we sell them online.
Yep.
So there's always an opportunity for you to get it if you can't get it today or tomorrow. We're always out there to help you. They're at trade shows. There's online sales. But because, and we have a new table that I'm going to let her touch base on a little bit.
Yeah, we'll
and
show
then-
we'll show both really quick. And
Yeah.
and here's the thing, it really is every tool in regards to ergonomics truly is on every single aspect. And I will tell you, I'm 54 years old. I have a rotator cuff problem and I have a sciatic nerve problem. Do I stand most of the time? Yes. But I like to have that opportunity to be able to sit, because sometimes you just have to take that stress off of your body. And I know that pretty much all of us, unfortunately, are not getting any younger. We keep getting older, and it seems like we keep getting achier. And I will tell you, with that rotator cuff, there have been times at a trade show I literally had to cut up at an angle because that was as far as I can reach. But what I always tell people, if you drop your arm and bend, that's how you should be holding Martelli's cutter. And I actually say that should be about the height of your table. Now I always go down just a tad. So this is the height of the table for me. And I'm only, 5'1". Valerie's a little bit taller than I am. But the nice thing about our tables, and you can't see, I can't move it all around like I normally do, but all by a push of a button, you're going to adjust the table to your height. So whether you're sitting or whether you're standing, maybe you use a walker and you need it, or maybe you're in a wheelchair and you absolutely need it. The nice thing with the tables is that they go from 28.5 inches all the way up to 48. Now 48 is going to be way too bloody high for me, but you know what? There's times that you're cutting, or not cutting, but you're tracing something, or just looking at a pattern and needing to see it closer to your face. You can use that. Now also, and I won't be able to do it right here either, but the further you reach, the harder it is. Your hand has a tendency to veer off, but also your back, your neck, your shoulders hurt. Now I know a lot of you already out there own the tables, and I hope that you take advantage of the tilting, because I know we show you. But imagine if you cut going up, you can reach further, you can see better, and it takes all the stress out of your body. So the table tilts this direction. Now I will tell you that being able to square up your quilt at an angle, you can reach further. It is so much easier to be able to do that. There are times that truly, like when my shoulder was hurting me, I will tilt the table and I can sit here and do all my cutting because I don't have to reach as far. If you, right now, if you look online, the tables are at retail, and they don't come with anything, unfortunately, every single day. But I'm sure that if you emailed the store or even called, we can put together a package for you. These things are the most important thing, I think, that Martelli makes. It's a combination of the tools, from your rulers, your cutters, your templates, even free motion stuff, and the table. And we have a lot of people, they paint, they scrapbook, they do stained glass windows. You use this as a workstation. You literally do
I
everything
had a
on
lady
it.
that called me, true story. Danny was there, and we sold this lady a table, and it was in Long Beach, as a matter of fact, and we sold her a table, and she came back the next year. She's like, I need another table. And Danny said, well, why do you need another table? Oh, I don't need another table. My husband needs a table. He took my table and he constantly takes it, and I'm tired of it. So I told him he's buying me another table. I waited a whole year for you to come back to Long Beach, and she bought a table. And I said, well, if you don't mind me asking, what is he doing with it? Car engine.
Yeah.
I swear to you. I'm like, you paid $2,400 to put the he said, yeah, because he can lower it, get it on there,
Yep.
lift it up to work on it, and then, because, they're wrenches or whatever they pick
Yep.
these engines up with or whatever it goes. So, but I thought to myself, that's just crazy. But, I mean, no matter what you do, I mean, we've heard all kind of RVs, they put it in the tables and the RVs for their tables.
I sold it
Yeah.
to a lady. I was in Long Island, New York, and she kept coming back and forth. I'm like, okay, tell me what you're thinking, because she just kept coming back. And she's like, my husband and I are getting ready to move onto a boat permanently. And I said, okay, well then what if you remove the table in the boat, put the 4-foot table in place? I can give you 4 locking casters. Oh my God, I'll be right back. And she went to call him, and he goes, sure, absolutely.
You put a
could-
tablecloth on it, eat at dinner,
that's,
you never know.
That's right.
Oh,
You
I've
know,
been there.
I mean, it really becomes a workstation. And the nice thing too is that, the 4-foot one and the Advantage are only 28 inches wide, so they can go through a door. I mean, they become your number one table. I always tell people, I wrap Christmas presents on it. I use it as a buffet table. It just becomes your everything. So
I know we're pushing for time. I have one more
Yeah.
thing really quickly
You wanna
I
show
want to
this?
show is I'm going to let Joe Allen show this. I know my dad is working on another table, but meanwhile the my wheels were turning for
We're gonna go
something
over here,
simple
see?
because my dad really does like above and beyond, and he's just got a brain that just doesn't quit. So he has high-tech things. I had because actually it was a customer, and I'm going to tell you the truth. It was a customer that came in that kind of was talking, that kind of gave me the idea, and it just kind of morphed into this. But about 8 of you have it out there. Shirley has it. I know.
we sold a couple this weekend.
We sold a couple this weekend. So it's pretty cool. So I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about it. Of course, it's got our M7 on there, and if you're interested in that, we do have a storefront as well for the M7. But I'm just going to let her tell you a little bit about the table.
Well, and here's again, it's about the right tools the right way. Because if you sew too high, if you sew too low, your back, your neck, your shoulder are going to hurt, okay? So right now, actually, I think it's set the way that Lisa does, but you have the bottom table, and both of these tables, by the way, they go from 25 inches all the way up to 50. But so many times people, and this has been going on for a long time, they're like, we want a table from you guys, we want a table from you so that my machine could sit flush into it. So what we did instead of having one table, you actually have 2, so you have a little bit more flexibility. What I like, and I'm just going to raise only the top. You saw that it was flush with the machine, so when you're sitting there, whether you're free motion quilting or you're sewing, you've got a nice flat surface. But a lot of times, especially if you're starting to free motion quilt, you've got all that weight of your quilt. So you can actually lift this up a little bit to kind of bring the weight off of the needle of your machine to also give yourself more room to be able to free motion quilt. But really the nice thing is both of them can raise or lower to the height of you what is going to be comfortable, or maybe you even want to stand. There are a lot of people now that like to stand when they sew just to get that blood flow. So maybe your doctor said you need to stand half the time that you're sewing and then sit the other half. At least this gives you the opportunity to, and you've got 4 presets as well, so maybe you want...
And again, something about this table is that no matter what machine you buy, they make inset tables.
That's right.
And when they make these inset tables, they make them for certain machines. This table will fit any machine. You put the machine in there, you can move it over a little bit,
Yep.
and
It could be a tiny, tiny little table.
and then you're just going to
machine.
have more table to your right-hand
That's
side.
right.
But the thing that I love, and I know anybody who knows Nancy McNally who taught the class, she did a video for us. We are getting ready to put that online, so you'll be able to see hers in action. She was excited. And we knew about this, and we've talked about this. But if you have a Martelli cutting table, how awesome would it be to be able to wheel your table, cutting
Absolutely.
table to the back end of this,
And then even
bring
have
it
all
down
that
to that.
space.
So now when you're doing a king size quilt, you're not fighting for binding. You're not fighting to do that quilting, because those quilts are heavy and it does take
And
time.
everything is on casters, so it can move around. And the thing is, if you need to see things in person, oh, that's a great picture, Zeke. With Martellis, you know that you're getting quality. And, you know,
It's made in the United States.
That's
and
right.
It's a
It's
family-run
made-
business,
that's
but we
right.
have a crew of guys, my son-in-law included, and guys that work really hard downstairs, and they put this stuff together. So, you know, it is a little expensive, but it's made in the United States,
Right.
and it's made with love. I can assure you that. And the customer service is also
well,
great.
you also, with the tables, whether it's a sewing table or the cutting table, they are so sturdy. They're made out of high-density polyethylene. They're not wobbly like a plastic table, a particle board table that you may buy at, you know, at the big box stores. So they're going to last you forever. If you need to see anything in person, this week, actually, I leave tomorrow. I'm going to Georgetown, Texas. Next week, I'm in Palatka.
What store are you going to be at?
Poppy Quilt and Sew.
So if
Poppy
you're anywhere
Quilt and Sew.
down that
It's
way
like
and you'd like to
Austin.
see her, you know, stop in.
And I will have the sewing table with me. Next week I go to Palatka, and that's Miss D's Quilt Shop. And I will have the sewing table with me, and of course an Advantage table. And then the following week I will be in Orlando at a Sew Expo. First week we'll be in Fredericksburg they will not have that table with them, the
And
sewing
God
table. but-
willing, we will be in Houston as well.
Yes, exactly.
So we are
exactly.
excited about that too. So we appreciate
that?
you guys. Join us. I'm going to go over just a few.
But thanks for your time today, and hopefully you learned a little bit more. I mean, we can talk hours and hours and hours because the products are so good.
Well, was there any final questions, Linda, that we can answer?
No, I haven't seen any questions, just lots of hearts, lots of love, and lots
I'll
of people
take it.
saying they love the tables. Joe Allen, you've got lots of customers here that you sold their
Okay.
tables to. So they're
I
thrilled
don't
that
have
you're
any.
here.
Melba.
Sorry.
Well, no, Miss
They'll watch it
McNally
later.
is my customer, and I talked to her this afternoon. I don't know if she's watching, but
Yes.
she's a lifelong friend of mine, and she is my customer because I sold her when she first came, and she has bought several. So
And
I love her.
I have to say, I'm so bad. Like, I remember faces better than I do names, you know, because we meet so many people. But there are people that maybe they don't even buy a table. I don't care what people buy. As soon as I make someone a Martelli customer, it makes me happy.
Yeah, they'll come
it really
back
does.
for sure. All right, so I did want to say Marie Powers' son-in-law. I know there was a prayer request out there, but he is not doing good, so keep him in your prayers. We are doing Creating with Martelli. That is a Facebook page where it is all educational. And we have got on September 28th, Fall is in the Air.
Oh.
September 29th, the Quilt Estate Planning. That is So Much Therapy. And then on October 5th, we have Creating with Martelli, and it's Holiday Stuffies.
Cute.
And then we go on to So Much Therapy, Hands of Love, and that's going to be a fun one. This is a charity from, I believe they are going to Africa. I'm not sure. We're going to bring her in. We'll learn a little bit more about her. She has got what she does. I'm going to give you a little bit of info so that you're ready. What she does is she goes over there and teaches them a craft. She teaches them sewing so that they can make a
I
living.
remember you talking about her. Yeah.
And they send them back to the States when they're done. So she has got probably 10 things that have been made in Africa by these women. And we are going to sell them for her. We will have them on the Facebook page that day, or on the website that day for you to buy. And what it does is it donates. They're getting ready to go back, and I'm going to let her give you the dates because I don't even want to lie. But they are going back over there to bring 5 more sewing machines. So this money helps them supply. But the money that you buy these little quilt pieces from, or these little wall designs, those go directly to them.
Nice.
Whoever made that, it goes to their community or to their, I'd say family. But they are going to be giving and Martelli's is going to be giving a sewing machine as well to them. But they are bringing 5 sewing machines over there. So we're going to learn a little bit about her and
So
what
that's
her
October
industry does.
6th?
And that is October 6th. So for right now, that's all we've got. Watch on Tuesdays and Fridays. You get more information. And always be watching. If you haven't seen the Square Dance one, definitely go back. Linda and
So
Lisa did a
cute.
great job.
I'm excited about that.
I want to say thank you to Jessica because she's always rushing around getting these things online too. And if you have any questions, she's usually the one that's taking care of you. So I am blessed to have both of my children working here because they do a great job, and my mom for giving me the opportunity to be able to come to you guys live. And truly is a family-run business. David does his fabric sales. Don't miss that this week. I think it's an off week, but I think Brian is in town. So
Tomorrow is like one-off. So it's like, I think it's into the bolt type of stuff. So they're going to show you the fabric, and there's only one, so you have to jump and buy it.
So be ready. I know you guys will be. Thank you for joining us again, and I look
Hope to see you
forward
guys
to
soon.
seeing you guys soon. And take care.
Thank you.